Welcome to the Member Community Infrastructure Program 2022 Pre-Proposal Workshop. I'm Matt Sharver, Deputy Director of the Watershed Programs Department at the Northeast Ohio Regional Sewer District. We are bringing you this recorded workshop in light of the COVID-19 social distancing requirements currently in effect. In a few moments, Linda Mayer, the district's Grant Programs Administrator, will provide information on the request for proposal that's now available, as well as information on our application and scoring criteria for this funding round. Following Linda, Christine Ummerly, the district project engineer in the Engineering and Construction Department's Planning Work Group, will provide additional information on performance verification requirements for awarded grantees. Clean Water Act issues are more than combined sewer overflows. Sanitary sewer overflows, including surcharge sewers, basement flooding, common trench sewer arrangements, illicit discharges and improper connections, failing home sewage treatment systems, and issues with local wastewater treatment plants all deliver pollutants to our local waterways throughout Northeast Ohio. All Clean Water Act issues are not the responsibility of the Northeast Ohio Regional Sewer District alone, such as combined sewer overflows. However, all Clean Water Act issues are important for the region to effectively resolve and address public health issues. Unfortunately, many local communities are all too familiar with Clean Water Act issues such as sanitary sewer overflows, basement flooding, surcharge and undercapacity local collection system sewers, our unique common trench sewer arrangements, illicit connections, and failing home sewage treatment systems that again deliver pollutant loads to our local waterways, causing public health issues. The Northeast Ohio Regional Sewer District owns and operates over 326 miles of sewer system throughout 355 square mile service area. The district's Clean Water Act obligations are centered around combined sewer overflows through our Project Clean Lake program, as well as the maintenance and operation of the region's 3 large-scale wastewater treatment plants, easterly, westerly, and the southerly wastewater treatment plant. Local communities also have obligations under the Clean Water Act, such as sanitary sewer overflow, remediation, illicit discharge elimination, addressing and the removal of failing home sewage treatment systems, and reducing excessive infiltration and inflow that impact the local collection system. The local communities within the region have over 3,000 miles of locally owned sanitary sewers and an equal amount or more of local storm sewer systems. Of the 355 square mile service area, 71 square miles are combined sewer collection system, which is the city of Cleveland and portions of 10 inner ring communities. The remainder is separate trench and common trench systems throughout the suburban community, in addition to remaining home sewage treatment system areas. The district has studied the non-combined sewer overflow Clean Water Act issues throughout the region that encompass sanitary sewer overflows, known illicit connections, the unique common trench sewer arrangements in the region, and the capacity issues that are accompanying those, as well as the remaining home sewage treatment systems in the region. Remediation of these Clean Water Act issues carries a price tag of over $3 billion, a significant impact to the local communities in our region. The district wishes to partner and provide technical service to the 62 communities for which it serves in our wastewater service area. Through the Sewer District Code of Regulations, our Community Discharge Permit Program, and the Member Community Infrastructure Program, we wish to provide technical and funding sources to the local communities to address these Clean Water Act issues. In order to make the Member Community Infrastructure Program more effective, the district has invested in local sewer system evaluation studies to better understand problems and develop solutions on the local collection system. The district, through the Member Community Infrastructure Program, is providing funding through grants and community operating leases to implement solutions derived from the local sewer system evaluation studies. The strategy of studying the local system allows the district and the member communities to analyze flow, rainfall monitoring, and hydraulic modeling to understand capacity and inflow and infiltration issues throughout the local collection system. Proposed projects are prioritized, maintenance is identified, and policy recommendations are made to further improve the local collection system and address public health issues. The district has provided over $40 million of local sewer system evaluation studies in the region. Some of the studies are now complete, with the community reports being provided to member communities for review. These reports can serve as a basis to further evaluate infrastructure problem areas within the district service area. The Member Community Infrastructure Program provides grants and community operating leases for communities to implement projects to address various public health issues surrounding the Clean Water Act. The program is based on a request for proposals that has been recently released. The district can provide up to 75% of project costs, with member communities or eligible local political subdivisions providing a required 25% match. In addition to match requirements, communities and project implementers must provide performance verification to determine the success of the projects. We'd like to remind you that the program is competitive and does have application ranking and scoring criteria component, which is spelled out in the request for proposal. As Linda will remind you in the following segments, it is very important to fully understand the scoring criteria to make the strongest application possible for your project. Just to remind folks that may not be fully familiar with the 3 grant programs, the district does implement funding through the Member Community Infrastructure Program that addresses sewer infrastructure in the sanitary service area. It is a competitive annual grant program with funding provided through the district. Again, applicants are member communities or eligible political subdivisions. The district also implements the Community Cost Share Program through the Regional Stormwater Management Program. Community Cost Share Program addresses stormwater management projects and is community specific in its funding opportunity. 25% of the Regional Stormwater Management Program fees for each community are set aside in a community-specific community cost share account for that community to use on local stormwater projects. Again, applicants for the Community Cost Share Program are the specific member communities for which the dollars are set aside in their accounts. Community Cost Share funds can be used and leveraged as match towards member community infrastructure grant programs. The district also implements a Green Infrastructure Grants program that is specifically for the combined sewer area. It, too, is a competitive annual grant program facilitated by the district, with applicants being member communities, other governmental entities, nonprofits, and businesses working in partnership with their local communities. Now we would like to walk through the first 5 years of MCIP funding. In the 2017 funding round, the district awarded over $7 million worth of local projects. In the 2018 Member Community Infrastructure Program funding round, the district awarded nearly $4 million worth of project. To note, those projects that were not awarded in the 2017 round returned for the 2018 round and were able to capture funding in that 2018 round. So although your projects may not be funded in a particular year, we do encourage you to continue to work with us to strengthen your applications in return for a subsequent funding round. In the 2019 Member Community Infrastructure Program funding round, the district awarded nearly $8 million worth of projects. On average, the district is seeing about 2 dozen applications per funding round. In the 2020 Member Community Infrastructure Program funding round, the district awarded nearly $11 million worth of project funding to local communities. Reminding you that the program is competitive, it is important for communities and applicants to schedule the pre-proposal meetings that allow the district review committee to better understand your project proposal and provide technical guidance on how to strengthen your application and focus in on the information that we are most interested in understanding and scoring as part of the scoring criteria. Due to the continuing COVID-19 pandemic impacts to the sewer district's budget, a significant reduction in project awards were available for the 2021 funding round. However, the district was still able to award $2.5 million worth of funding to 7 projects in the district service area. New in the 2021 funding round, the district also was able to develop the design-only project award category, which will be available again under this newly released Member Community Infrastructure Program request for proposals. Finally, we would like to share some measurements of success under the Member Community Infrastructure Program over the past 5 funding rounds. As you can see in the table before you, there has been tremendous effort put forth to implement projects to address water quality through infrastructure improvement. Of note, the district's funding awards of over $32 million, but of equal importance, the member community and partnering organizations matching funds of upwards of $55 million have implemented projects across the region and in the district's service area to improve water quality. The district would like to continue this effort as we move into this 2022 request for proposal round.
I'm Linda Mayer, Grant Programs Administrator for the Northeast Ohio Regional Sewer District, and I'll be taking you through the Member Community Infrastructure Program's RFP application and scoring process. Eligible projects are not limited to the following, but these are examples of beneficial projects: mitigation of sanitary sewer overflows and illicit discharges, mitigation of infiltration and inflow, elimination of failing home sewage treatment systems, improvement of local sewer system level of service, management of stormwater flow to improve combined and sanitary sewer level of service, separate common trench sewers, such as over-under dividing wall or standard manhole. If you are unclear regarding the eligibility of your project, I strongly suggest a pre-proposal meeting. Ineligible project, and this may not be an exhaustive list, but these are definitely ineligible projects: fill materials in floodplains, riparian areas or wetlands, and the culverting or channelization of watercourses, capital operation, maintenance, and administrative expenses not directly related to eligible projects, or projects that increase the potential for flooding within a community and or neighboring communities, combined sanitary or storm sewer systems, or local watercourses. Project requirements include: the project must address water quality and quantity issues that impact human health and the environment associated with combined or separate sewer infrastructure problems. The project must be located in the sewer district's sanitary sewer service area, and you can find a link to the service area map on page 2 of the RFP. If you are unclear whether your project is eligible based on location, let me know and the district can investigate the location and make a determination of eligibility. Under project requirements, project must meet all applicable district, federal, state, and local regulations. Design-only projects must be completed within 12 months. Design and construction projects must be completed within 24 months, and projects must include at least 25% non-district matching funds. Matching fund requirements can include direct personnel costs, such as labor, engineering, design, construction services, performance verification, including fringe benefits, so a fully loaded rate. Planning and design costs directly related to the project incurred prior to submittal for MCIP funding, and cash and other funding resources in-kind sources. From this point forward, the presentation will simultaneously go through the application as related to the RFP. The link to the application can be found on page 10 of the RFP. If you've applied last year, the email address will be in the system and you'll be prompted to select a new password. This is the first page of the application, fairly standard. As you go down, you'll see that there's a spot for a co-applicant. A co-applicant letter of support is a requirement with the title of the project and support of the MCIP application as part of that letter of support. Project information. You'll see this is fairly standard as well, but the third line down pertains to the MCI grant funding exclusively. This area defines the project's match percentage. This is a reimbursement grant and payment will be made only on the project-specific invoices, and this percentage may affect reimbursements. Review the MCIP policy, process, and procedures for details on the reimbursement process or feel free to give me a call if you have any questions. The district is requiring documentation of the non-district funds with the application. And now we're going to move into project evaluation. Project evaluation can be found on page 4 of the RFP. It should go without saying that it's extremely important to review the 2022 MCIP RFP project evaluation section for details and expectations for each section. Also, multiple documents can be combined into one file prior to uploading. The maximum upload is 1 gigabyte. If combining files, make sure the file names are clear. If there are multiple documents, consider a table of content with page numbers to assist reviewers. So you have the opportunity for a project description and uploading a map or maps. Project description also includes an opportunity for narrative. Be clear and concise, and don't be afraid to use bullet points if applicable. Consider the reviewers. It's in your best interest. In project evaluation, we have the infrastructure condition section. This is 30% of your score. Current and actual condition of the structure and documentation such as photo evidence or structural PACP and MACP is advised. Included in the RFP is the scoring that you'll see here, so you can determine what your score would be based on your condition. When the infrastructure condition is unknown, the condition will be assessed based on the age and/or common trench configuration. Application should include the documentation verifying age of infrastructure, as well as any additional qualitative or historical information that can confirm the current condition. This is Table 2 in the RFP for rating system for unknown structural infrastructure condition. If the condition documentation is available, the pipe condition will be scored using the greater of the two numbers, condition versus age. And in the actual application itself, it mirrors that scoring condition that you see in the RFP. This year, a box to provide the age of sewer has been added. There are 3 sewer types that have been defined in this section: combined, common trench, and separate trench. Please indicate the length of existing sewer that is being rehabbed, replaced, and/or new sewer being installed. If there are any questions, don't hesitate to call the district for clarification. On the application, there's a box to let the district know if CCTV is available. Do not include CCTV, though, unless it's been requested. If proposing a home sewage treatment system project, documentation is required, such as a 208 plan, feasibility study, or other documentation of community support. And here's the scoring criteria for that section. And the application mirrors the RFP. You'll be given in the infrastructure conditions section a box to describe the structural deficiencies of the infrastructure, and that's a 500-word maximum. Water quality and quantity impacts on human health and the environment represents up to 35% of the final score. Demonstrate the effects of the project on water quality and quantity. Responses should be formulated that provide the clarity to the following questions. What is the frequency and/or magnitude of the problem? What is the direct human health or environmental impact? What is the impact on houses and/or businesses and the number of users within the sewer shed? And how will the proposed project eliminate or reduce water quality and quantity impacts? The water quality and quantity impact scoring criteria found here can also be found on Table 4 in the RFP. Information that verifies and quantifies the water quality and quantity issues should be provided within the proposal and appropriately referenced within the response, for example, by a page number or a document reference. Examples of project types include failed HSTSs, illicit discharges, basement flooding, CSOs and SSOs, I&I reduction, and common trench. Examples of corresponding supporting evidence for these various project types can also be found in the RFP. Key to this section is good documentation of these problems and that can garner up to 10 additional points. Historically, these 10 additional points can be significant in the final ranking of projects for award. This section under water quality and quantity impacts on the application, there's a section to provide a narrative to further demonstrate the effects of the project on water quality and quantity. It is important to review the 2022 MCIP RFP project evaluation section for details and expectation for each section. A key to success is providing the review team with the requested information with clarity and conciseness. Bulleting may even be helpful in certain circumstances. And also, multiple documents can be combined into one file prior to uploading. Next section is source control of stormwater, which is worth 10% of your score. Prevent stormwater from entering the combined or separate sanitary sewer system through removal or detention. This year, a stormwater control measure guidance has been added to the RFP as Attachment B. The source control of stormwater scoring criteria is more prescriptive than in the past and aligns with the new stormwater control measure guidance document. You'll also have 500 words maximum to make the case for source control of stormwater. The next section under project evaluation provides a significant benefit to the district. That is 15% of your final score as well. This would be compliance with district community discharge permit program, reduces flow to the district infrastructure, reduces infrastructure flooding and basement backups, expands water quality treatment to new district customers, recommended by a district study like the LSSES study, and complements a district program such as Project Clean Lake or Regional Stormwater Management Program. Non-district project funding scoring criteria, the maximum is 10%. And this is based on the percent of non-district funds. Documentation and itemized proof of non-district project funds must be submitted, and communities deemed in fiscal distress by the state may be eligible to have the 25% requirement waived and given a 1 point in this scoring category. Design complete, 5 extra points. Design is complete and ready for bid at the time of the proposal submitted. Please make sure that this is clear in the application. So highlight in the project description or narrative somewhere that that's the status of your project. New this year are 5 extra points for intercommunity projects. That would be projects that assist in conserving capacity of a downstream community or a downstream community that's able to remove additional flows from an upstream community. The community should reference the district's local sewer system evaluation study findings or other data, including certification from the benefiting community. And that completes our project evaluation section. Further down in the application itself, you'll find the performance verification section. This is a requirement to assess how well the project is functioning. We'll take a deep dive into performance verification a little further in this presentation. We'll also require project schedule and budget information. This is again fairly standard of any grant. If you have any questions, just give me a call. Fairly standard, upload documents, combine documents if necessary, and you have a section at the bottom for a narrative or description of the schedule and the budget. When complete, review and submit. The system will automatically send a notification that the proposal has been received. The MCIP current round schedule is as follows. April 22nd to 29th, pre-proposal meetings will be scheduled. May 21st, submissions are due by the close of business. May through August, the district will be conducting reviews, and in September, there'll be community notification of awards. That concludes this section of the workshop, and now we'll transition to performance verification.
Hello everyone, my name is Christine Ummerly. I am a project engineer with the Sewer District, and I'm going to begin my portion by speaking a little bit about the performance verification. Performance verification is required for MCIP. Communities are responsible for providing data regarding the flow monitoring, sampling, those sorts of activities. This could mean that you're going out and getting new information that is specific to your MCIP project, or it could be providing existing information that maybe a community already has or has been provided through one of the local sewer system evaluation studies, a stormwater master plan, that sort of thing. One thing that's important to note is that performance verification costs, if they are incurred prior to your application, they are able to count as planning costs, which means that you can include it in your match. Or if the activity is going to be occurring during the planned project period, those costs can be included as part of the overall budget request. To begin, we have a technical guidance document that is available to all communities and applicants. It is available on the MCIP webpage, and this technical guidance goes through the various sewer type definitions. There's a table that includes the suggested project performance verification based on the project type. There are guidelines for flow monitoring activities, a map of the district rain gauge locations, as well as guidelines for dry weather water quality sampling. So I'll just go through at a very high level, talking about the different definitions. We have a variety of different sewer types in the greater Cleveland area. Here you'll see examples that define the sewer types in terms that should be used when you're describing your existing system in your application. So we've had some issues in the past with different sewer types being called the incorrect name. So we just want to make sure that we're all speaking the same language here. The main purpose for these definitions is to help differentiate between the different kinds of common trench, which is fairly common in the greater Cleveland area. If you look at the left side of this image here, you'll see an example of an over-under alignment where the sanitary is directly below the storm. And these two are separated by an invert plate, but sometimes that invert plate can be missing, which leads to very high levels of I&I. Moving right along, we have the dividing wall where the access to both sewers is in the same manhole. There's just a dividing wall between the two. The problem being that if one of these sewers were to overtop, usually the storm sewer, it can flow into the sanitary, overwhelm it. We get some cross flow between the two, which we don't want because ideally we keep them separate. And then we have our standard manhole alignment where there are two different manholes for the two sewers, but they are still within the same trench. And then of course we have separate trench where there are separate manholes, separate trenches, the greatest distance between the two. So that's the spectrum of the trench types that we're working with. Like I mentioned, this is important when it comes to the application because we would like for all applicants to indicate the links of existing sewer that is being rehabbed or replaced or new sewer that's being installed. It can be a little bit confusing, but you only have to fill out the box that corresponds with your existing conditions. So if you have a combined sewer, you'd just be filling out that first box. If you are working with a common trench alignment, then you'll just be filling out the box that contains whichever one that you have based on the definitions that we have provided, and same thing for separate trench. If your project has multiple different sewer types, then go ahead and fill out the links for every type that you have within your project area. This table outlines the suggested verification activities based on your project type. On the left, you'll see a variety of different project types. This is not an exhaustive list of what would be considered eligible for MCIP. It's just the types of projects that we see most often. And then along the top are the various kinds of performance verification, flow monitoring, RDII evaluation, and dry weather water quality outfall sampling. Other verification can include dye or smoke testing, videotaping, or other methods depending on the project. If you are submitting for a design-only grant application, you do not have to do the performance verification. However, we would like you to be thinking about it and including budget for it when you're doing your project estimates as part of your design, because if you then bring that project back for a construction-only application, you will have to do performance verification, but you'll already have begun the work to do it, so it'll just make the process a little smoother. So a few notes, we do ask for pre- and post-construction verification, except for that one instance noted on the table. Like I said, this is not a complete list of MCIP eligible projects in the table, so if you have questions about a project that you'd like to submit, you can contact your watershed team leader. And like I mentioned, there are other types of verification that can be included. The applicant is responsible for evaluating any potential downstream or upstream impacts of the proposed work on other users or on the level of service of the infrastructure. So that plays into the RDII evaluation. If your project touches an SSO or a CSO, we are also going to be looking for a quantification of either the volume reduction or the reduction in number of activations. This helps us to determine the benefit of the project when we're in the scoring phase. So let's talk a little bit about flow monitoring. The main purpose for flow monitoring is to quantify the level of I&I reduction that results from sewer rehab or replacement. There is a software that is available through the EPA that is called SOAP. It's a free software that can be used for that RDII evaluation. If you are looking for that tool, there's a link there. If you have pre-construction data, if you've completed flow monitoring already, if it was part of an SSES, please include that data with your application. When you're picking locations for your monitors, you really want to think about isolating the flow within the MCIP project area. Generally, we want to see the locations for pre- and post-construction monitoring repeated because that way we're comparing apples to apples. In the same vein, you want to monitor in similar wetness conditions or during the same season of the year because the rainfall antecedent moisture is going to look different in April versus October. And like I mentioned, all verification activity can be included in your budget request. Here's a map that shows the different rain gauges that the district maintains. This data is available. You just have to reach out to Matt Fedak and he can work with you to get that data. There's a link within the technical guidance document to this map in a GIS format so you can zoom in and out and see more specifically where these gauges are located. We also have gauge adjusted radar rainfall data that is available for you. So if you reach out to Mike Blair, he would be able to get you that data. Flow monitoring should occur for at least a duration of 4 weeks, or if you have 3 storms that either the rain event meets or exceeds a depth of 0.2 inches and an intensity of 0.25 inches per hour, or if the 24-hour rainfall is greater than 0.75 inches. And when you're collecting your data, make sure you're collecting flow depth, velocity, and flow rate at 5-minute intervals. Moving right along to our water quality sampling, the main purpose for this is to quantify the approximate pollutant concentration. Again, these are mainly for our illicit discharge projects and for septic system elimination projects. So this sampling will be end of pipe samples from discharges or outfalls, and it should be 3 separate sampling events for each identified outfall. And when we say separate, we mean on different days. I mentioned earlier that all this information is located within our technical guidance document. It is available at NEORSD.org/MCIP, and if you scroll down under the policy, process, and procedure area, there's a link there to that technical guidance, the one that is in the circle, and you can download it there. So at this point, I'm going to move into a demonstration of how to use our ArcGIS Online tool. AGOL is an online portal that we use to view the collection system and various project maps. The district has been using AGOL internally to house the performance verification data that has been submitted for previous MCIP projects. You as the applicant submit your project performance verification plan via AGOL. So this is a very important step and it is required at the time of application in order to be considered complete. We'll begin with the basic login process. You can reach the website at www.arcgis.com. Let's begin with accessing the ArcGIS website. You put in the webpage, which is arcgis.com. This will bring us to the login page, so click sign in here. If you have an ArcGIS sign-in, then you can use your username and password here to log in. If you don't, or if you haven't logged in within the past 6 months, then you'll have to request a new one, which can be done by emailing gis@neorsd.org. So I'm going to go ahead and log in. This is the homepage for the NEORSD ArcGIS online platform. So at the top you see that there's this ribbon of options of different tabs that you can use to navigate through. The important one that we want to highlight today is groups here. So if you click on groups, you will see all of these different project groups. Access to these is given on a project by project basis. On my account, obviously I have a lot because I work for the district, and so I have a lot of projects that I need access to. But I also have some community groups here. When you log in, you may only see that you have one community group and that's all you have. That's okay. If it is determined that you need more access, like for instance, if you want to access information from a specific LSSES project, then we can add you to those groups accordingly. You just have to make the request. And remember, having that LSSES data is helpful because sometimes you can use the field data for your performance verification data. For this demo, I'm going to do an example project as if we were doing a project at the Watershed Stewardship Center, which is in Parma. I would click on my community group here. Once it loads, I see that there is this Parma MCIP app. Now, it's important, some of these community groups you'll have an app, sometimes you will have a map, and sometimes you will have both. For project verification, you want to make sure you are clicking on the app. This is based on the map that is created for your community, but it has some additional functionality that is important to being able to put in all the information that we need. So just make sure you're clicking on the right one. Once this loads, I'll come over to View Application. So now the community map is opening, and sometimes it takes a little bit to load, but eventually everything will be in here and you'll see all the collection systems. Sometimes you just have to zoom in a little bit further. I can already see some features starting to pop up. There's a collection system that just came up. Once you get in here, feel free to zoom around. You can look around your whole community, look at how the collection system is connected. All of this information is based on drawings that we have received from you, the community. So if you see something that isn't correct, you can send us the drawing and we can get that updated in the system through a map change request. So I'm going to navigate over here to the Watershed Stewardship Center on West Ridgewood Drive. But before we get started, let me click on this legend down here to just kind of go through what it is that we're seeing on this map. The map is made up of various layers. And if you click here, you can see all of the different layers that are available for this app. You can turn them on and off by just toggling these checkboxes. For instance, I know that these little stars here are septic systems. If I didn't really want to see them, I could turn them off like that, turn them back on. There's a lot of information here that can be really helpful. For instance, the inventory of where all of our dry weather outfalls are, or where sampling data has indicated that there might be some high E. coli levels, things like that. So those can be helpful in determining where you want to do your project verification. So as you zoom and pan around, you may notice that some of these layers turn gray when you zoom out. That just means that it's not available at the scale that you're at, so if you zoom back in again, you will get that back. Let's navigate back down to the Watershed Stewardship Center. As I'm zooming and panning, I see all the collection system here, and when you click on any asset in the collection system, you'll get a box that pops up with all kinds of information about it. For example, when I clicked on this manhole, I can see the name, the manhole type, the flow, if it's storm or sanitary, what the trench type is, all this information about everything I could want to know about it. One other thing to note is you'll see that it says 1 of 4. Where I clicked, there's a lot of different assets that the system is thinking that maybe I want to look at by clicking at that point. So it just kind of collects the nearest ones and pulls them all together. You can scroll through by clicking on these little triangles here, the little arrows. So now you can see I'm looking at this pipe. And if I go again, I'm looking at this one. If you ever think that you're clicking on the right thing, can't quite see it, it could just be that it's been grouped together. So I'm going to go back to this manhole here because when I am putting in the information for my performance verification, I really want to focus on the name of this manhole. The data in AGOL is sourced from maps that we receive from the communities, and sometimes communities call the different assets different things than the way that it gets put into the AGOL. So it's important that when you're putting information in here, we're using the same language, the same vocabulary when we're talking about where things are going. This is how you would find the name for the manhole. This becomes important later for when I put a point there to show that I'm going to be doing some flow monitoring there. We'll get to that in a little bit. Okay, so going back over to my legend, I am ready to put in information about my project. So I'm going to click here on the edit button. One important thing to note is that when I'm in edit mode, I can't then click on the manholes and assets to get information about them. So just make sure that you've sourced all that information before you start editing, but if you do need to switch back, it's not a big deal. You just close out of edit mode and you can go back in, click around and get the information you need. All right, so back in edit mode again. The first step is to define the project area. So I'm going to do that by using this purple tool here. If I click on here, now I'm ready to start drawing in the map. Click on the map to place the vertices of a polygon to show the area. So let's say that I am going to be lining this pipe here. So I would just draw a big rectangle around my area, and when I'm done, I double click and it automatically closes it. Now I can put in information about the project name. I'm going to call this West Ridgewood Drive Lining Project. And you'll see that the community and application year are already pre-populated. If I had any attachments that I wanted to include, I could just choose File here and then browse through my folders to upload, but I don't have anything at the moment. Once I'm done putting it in, I just click this X and it's in there, easy as that. Going back over to my edit tool, we have our flow monitoring, which is indicated with these little starburst icons. And then we also have water quality sampling points with the water droplets. 3 statuses for each. For flow monitoring, there's active, proposed, and removed. Active means there's currently a flow monitor in the ground, it's taking data. Proposed is where I think I'm going to be putting my flow monitoring. Removed means that the flow monitoring has already been completed. We have data for it. If I'm ever putting in a removed points, I should also be uploading that data. Similarly, with the water quality sampling, active means that I'm in the middle of my 3 separate events, taking those different samples. Proposed means I think I'm going to take a sample here. Completed means the 3 separate events are done. I have the data and I'm going to upload the data with this point. I'm going to put in a flow monitor, so I'm going to click proposed because I haven't done this yet. So let's say I want to put a flow monitor in this manhole here. I just hover over it, click on it there, and now I'm ready to put in all the information about that flow monitor. So we've got the West Ridgewood Lining Project, verification phase. I have not done this project yet, so it's going to be pre-construction. Now this is important because we're not only collecting data for proposals here, but we're going to be tracking performance verification for projects as they are awarded as well. The nice thing about this is that I can come back in later for post-construction verification and see where did I put those points, put them in again for post. I have the ability to keep that data nice and clean. You'll see down here some other fields such as equipment or date installed, which especially if it's a proposed point, you may not know that yet, so that's all right. But this manhole asset ID, this is the important one that we talked about earlier. Luckily, I know that asset ID because I was able to look it up earlier, so I'm just going to paste it in here. And then the location description is West Ridgewood downstream. Something simple like that. If you know that there's a landmark that it's nearby, especially for those water quality sampling points, that's really helpful to put in. I don't have any comments or attachments, but when I do finally do this flow monitoring and I have those Excel files with the 5-minute data, I am going to end up uploading it here by clicking choose file, select through, upload the file. So all the data can be stored within AGOL. All right, so looks good for now. So I'm going to click this X here. Everything will be saved. The process for putting in a water quality sampling point is pretty similar. I'll just throw this one here. I know that that's not actually an outfall, but you can see it looks really similar to the flow monitoring dialog box as well. Similarly, this outfall ID, that's kind of like the manhole ID, you would want to click on the outfall based on the inventory that I showed how to access earlier. Highest sample result refers to the highest amount of E. coli tested out of those 3 events. And then other self-explanatory fields, again, you can add attachments here and you would just click the X to save. Although for this one, I'm not actually sampling there, so I am going to delete that point just to make it cleaner. Once I'm done, just exit out of edit mode and we're complete. So really, it was very simple, painless. I've got that information in. Now I can click that checkbox in my application to say that yes, I did put my data in for performance verification, and we're good to go. Some final points before we wrap up. Construction applications are not considered complete until performance verification has been submitted in the AGOL. So if you have any construction element in your project, you must do this performance verification. I said earlier that design only does not need to complete this, but it is still helpful to think about where you would put your performance verification as you're going through your design, because when you come back for construction, you can put that information in and already have that thought through. And just being pretty frank here, there is a bit of a learning curve to the AGOL platform. So it's never too early to begin. Don't start too late. If you have any questions at all about GIS, you need to get access, you need to be added to a group, you are just having some technical difficulties, feel free to email gis@neorsd.org and someone will reach out to you to help you. We have a wonderful GIS team here at the district and they are extremely talented and very helpful, so we can get any problem solved for you. Similarly to our technical guidance document, we also have an AGOL Instructions document. As you're going through the online application, you'll come to this performance verification section. And if you click over onto where it says AGOL Instructions, there's a link there that it will prompt you to download a PDF that contains all the information about how to go through the steps that I just showed you. So that is there if you need it. One quick note, when you're accessing this link, you want to make sure that you right click on it and select Save Link As, because otherwise we had some issues with the document opening up as a PDF in the same tab and interrupting the application process. I believe we've gotten that bug fixed, but just in case, it doesn't hurt to use this method to download the PDF. Once you've gone through the whole process to put in your verification points, you can then select that little checkbox that says AGOL completed and continue on your way with your application. If you're doing design only, just go ahead and click that as completed because it won't let you go forward since it is a required box. So that wraps it up for performance verification. If you have any questions, my name again is Christine Ummerly. My contact information is on the final slide, so I'll pass it back over to Linda.
And that concludes the 2022 Member Community Infrastructure Program Workshop. If you're interested in scheduling a pre-proposal meeting or have questions about the program, application, reimbursement process, contact myself, Linda Mayer. If you have questions about performance verification, please contact Christine Ummerly.
And for ArcGIS online support, a contact address has been provided. Thank you for attending the Northeast Ohio Regional Sewer District's 2022 Member Community Infrastructure Program Workshop.